Hi, this time I'm going to talk about a pretty old style and a very common style of ending a game, and that is a race. You're all trying to achieve something, usually a locational thing, like getting to the finish line if you're on a racetrack. But it doesn't have to be a racetrack. It can be anything where everybody's attempting to achieve something, and when one player achieves it, that ends the game, and also that player wins the game. Now, many races are quite low interaction. That is to say, there's not much you can do to hinder or help the opponent. A typical horse race, for example. There can be a little bit of blocking, but you're not supposed to block too much. Car races also. In a NASCAR car race, if you block a faster car for too long, they will flag you and tell you to get out of the way. So blocking is part of it, but not a big part of it. And of course, in NASCAR races, you can get to the point where sometimes a player will nudge, or a driver will nudge the car in front of it and nudge it out of the way and possibly cause it to crash in order to achieve the driver's objective. But generally, races are relatively sedate. I think in Pachisi, which is an old game that is a race, I think you can block, and the same with backgammon. You can block temporarily in a particular place. But that's about all. These kinds of games don't have usually methods where you can cause harm to the opponent. The exception being chariot races. Some of the chariot race games, you can whip the opponent's horses and so on and so forth, and possibly even cause them to crash. So there can be a lot of harm done in a race. And of course, if the race is not an actual race on a track, but going toward everybody achieving something, there may be lots of ways that you can interfere with another player. Always the consideration is if you take time to interfere with or harm another player, if there's more than two players, then the other players are going to get ahead because they're not taking the time to do that. So this can go on to something else. For example, I have a prototype of a Chinese rebellion game. And there the objective is to gain 7 of the 11 objective locations on the board and hold those through the opponent's next turn. And if you do, that ends the game and you win the game. That's still a race style, technically. So don't get locked into the notion that race style only applies for actual races. There are different ways of going about this. In fact, let's take a really wild one. Pitch penny. If you have several people playing pitch penny, you're pitching a penny against the wall, and whoever's penny gets closest to the wall wins. In some sense, that's a race because you have executed the objective of getting close to the wall better than anyone else. So don't let your mind get too narrow in the idea of a race. Thanks for listening.